In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this stylish peplum top. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button. And this dress is from AA Collections. Now to start, we are going to start by cutting the upper part, and what you need is to get your half length. Now deduct your half length from your full blouse length. Let's say my blouse length is 27 and my shoulder to waist is 17. Now I'll deduct 17 from 27 and the remaining part of my blouse length is 10 inches, which I'll use for the peplum. Now I went ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2 plus half, and at that point I'll come down by 1 inch. I added half inch to this dress because it has a sleeve. Now I'll mark a neckline of 3.5 inches. Now from this part, that 1 inch, I'll connect and mark my shoulder slant or shoulder slope. The next step is to find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. I made a mark on that point. I have 7 inches, placed my ruler, and I'm drawing out a straight line. I'll go ahead and place back my shoulder divided by 2 plus half on my chest line. Now I'll place my ruler and I will connect, drawing out a straight line at that point. I'll divide my armhole into 2 equal parts. Now I'll mark and come out by half inch. Go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll place my curve drill, connect from that point to the half inch at the armhole and to the shoulder. Now I'll start marking my dart, which I'll start marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5, which I'll mark. Then I'll place my ruler and draw out a straight line. Next is to mark my dart intake. I'll mark half inch here, then 1.5 here. I'll also repeat it here. Now if you're a plus size, you mark 1 inch here and 2 inches on the side. Now after marking this, I'll place my ruler and I'll draw out a straight line. Now the next step I'll take is to go ahead to connect from the bust down to the under bust. Then I'll go ahead to repeat it on the other side. Now after marking out, I'm not comfortable with what I have. I'm not okay with what I have. I'll just go ahead to readjust it. Now after I'm done readjusting it this way, I'll go in with my marker and I will outline to make it more visible. Now at the upper part, at that midpoint of my armhole, I'll connect it back to my bust line. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to mark my dart intake. I'll mark half inch on both sides. From that point, I'll go ahead to connect it back, then connect this other side down again. I'll start inserting my measurements. Here I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and I realized I didn't replace this dart. So that half inch on both sides, which is 1 inch, I replaced it back to the lower part and blended it to the armhole. Now, after marking my bust circumference divided by 4, that 1 inch dart at the armhole, I will replace it back here. Then add a sewing allowance. Mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add a sewing allowance. Now, mark your waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add your sewing allowance. Use any sewing allowance of your choice. Now I'll place and I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern. So after this, I'll go ahead to mark my neckline. I'm using 3.5 by 3 inches. The width is 3.5, the depth is 3 inches, and I'll connect. Now I'll mark my bust dart. To get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17, while my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. If you minus 15.5 from 17, you will have 1.5 inches, which I marked for my bust. That now I'll go ahead to transfer all these measurements to the other side of my pattern. Now after transferring it, I'll open it up. Now if you notice, I have two similar patterns. What I did was to draft another pattern. Now you'll be drafting out another pattern because you have like an overlap on each part. From the center, I'll come out by 1.5 here, and from there I'm going to connect it going down. Now I went down by 2 inches at this side, and I'll extend it in a way that it will cross the dart a little. Then I'll start taking it back to the center. You see the center of my line, the center of my pattern, I will mark it out. Now this is for this part, and I'll go ahead to cut it out. Now one side of this pattern will be overlapping the other parts of this pattern. So what I'll do now is to go ahead, place this on the other pattern. Now I will now trace out out from this part to complete the other side and connect it back to the center of my pattern. Now these two patterns is overlapping each other, right? Now you have to like cut out this side, join it as one piece, like join each side by one piece, then place one over the other one, and you now top stitch on it down, right? Top stitch on it. That is, you're going to join each side separately, place it on each side, and make sure that it meets at the center, and you now go ahead to top stitch it down. So I'll just go ahead to cut this out. So if you have any question, please kindly also leave your question at the comment section. Now I'll cut this out, and after cutting it out, so you join this as one piece, join it at one piece, then place it on top of each other, top stitch. Now here is the back pattern. I've marked out the zipper, and my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. Now I've gone ahead to mark out all the basic measurements, and I also added a zipper. For the neckline, I'll use 3.5 by 1 inch for the back, or you can use 1.5 if you want it a bit lower. Now I'll just extend that mark to the zipper. Sorry. Now I'll go ahead to outline this. Now the next step is to go ahead to divide my armhole. I left that part because I just want to divide it. It's the same thing we did at the front. Mark the midpoint, mark your bust circumference, and then connect it all the way up. Now after connecting it, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to mark my dart. I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll go ahead to place my ruler and draw a straight line. Mark 1/2 inch on both sides of my pattern. Go ahead to come down by 1 inch from the bust line and connect it down. Now I'll insert my measurement for this pattern. I'll start by marking my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll add my sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace it, and add my sewing allowance. Go ahead to place my ruler, and I will connect. So after marking that, I'll come in by 1/2 inch, extend it all the way up. This is to get rid of the bulginess at the back. Now after this, I'll go ahead to cut out my back pattern. After cutting that out, we'll go ahead to cut out the peplum part. And remember how we got the length? We minused our half length from the full blouse length, and I did that earlier. I said if my blouse is 27, my half length is 17, minus 17 from 27, you have 10 inches. Now to cut this part, I'm going to cut it in form of a 360-degree flay. Fold your pattern into 2, then go ahead to fold it again. Fold your fabric into 2 and fold it again, giving you 4. We are going to cut this in a full circle flay, which is a 360-degree flay. Now let's say you have your waist circumference of 28 inches. You're going to add your zipper allowance to it. If you're using 2 inches on both sides, So that means you'll be adding your zipper allowance to it. Now after adding your zipper allowance, when cutting this, you notice we have pleating on the waistline of this pattern. Now you're not going to use your exact measurement, you're going to add extra inches to it. You might add like extra 10 to 15 inches or 20. Let's say within 10 to 15 inches because there's pleating on the waistline. Now add that 15 extra inches to your waistline plus your zipper allowance. Now this is the measurement you use and cut your waistline. Now because I'm folding this on a pattern, if I cut this, it might not enter this pattern. I'll use a smaller waistline to explain it. Now let's just say everything you calculated is 16 inches. So when you're cutting with a full circle flay, you're going to divide your pattern by 4 because we folded our pattern by 4. So if we divide 16 by 4, we'll have 4 inches. Now what you do is you place your tape in form of a semicircle and make sure you have like 4 inches, right? Now after drawing it out like this in form of a semicircle, what you're going to do is place your tape now from the tip of your paper to where you have the first line. So go ahead to take that measurement. If I place, what I have is roughly 2.1. Now that 2.1, I'm going to take it round my pattern. I'm going to go ahead to take that measurement round. Now after taking it round, I'll now go ahead to connect it like a circle, like a semicircle. So after connecting it now, you're now going to take the remaining or the full length of the lower part. Remember the full length we have is 10 inches. Now you won't cut exactly that 10 inches. What you will do is you add 1 inch to it for turn up allowance and joining it back to the waistline, because you're going to turn the lining of the dress with the main fabric and then use ½ inch and turn it. So now you place and you're going to mark 11 inches round. After marking it, you're going to go ahead to connect it in form of a circle, like a semicircle. After you're done connecting, you now go ahead to cut it out. If you cut it out, what you have will be a full circle. Now that full circle you're going to have, you're going to slit it open, right? You slit it open here and then slit it open also at the back. Now, so one will be serving as the front and one will be the back. Now you go ahead and pick a point and create a curve. So this is the part that is going towards the front. You notice that there's a slight curve. You just go ahead to create that curve. Now after creating it, one will overlap the other one this way while joining it to the waistline. Another thing is that you're going to pleat the waist. You're going to like create a little pleat to have that fullness on the waist because you didn't use the exact waistline to cut it out. So this is the end of this video. If you have any question, leave it at the comment section.